Hey, so today we're going to be talking about the interpretive simulation dealing with the Asian market, specifically with All Smile toothpaste branding. My name's Ben Bell, and let's get started. So in the first round, we decided to enter the market in China because of, obviously, China was like the core of where we wanted our distribution to be, as well as seemed like the best market to gaining market share and gaining unit sales and the capital to do everything else. So we started out with a production of about 500 million units, which we found out would be way too much. We should have started out for in the future, start out around 150 to 200 million units for your first couple of years, and then begin expanding your capacity. So we chose SKUs, white medium, healthy large, and kids medium toothpaste. With prices adjusted on a formula, we took the MSRP price and divided it by 0.75 to kind of get around our needed price range. And then from here, we would adjust it to where we felt like it needed to be. We started our ad campaigns for families, healthy, and of course we had salespeople, but we found out would not be near enough salespeople. We didn't do really well in the first round. So in the period 2, we increased our salespeople by, we went from about having 10 salespeople to 70 salespeople, just like that in the second round. And our biggest mistake was wondering if our investment in salespeople and promotion was actually going to pay off or not. And we didn't want to get ourselves in a bad financial situation, but when doing the interpretive simulation for future reference, don't be afraid to spend, because it's a pretty strong correlation of how it will pay off as far as your growing brand equity, as well as now in our brand equity in this second round here was about 52 and was okay, but we thought we could improve that a lot. Our goal was to get it close to 70 to 80 by the end of the simulation. So period 2, our decision kind of worked out, but then we decided to add, or for our period 2 decision, after our base decision, we had our first round decision where we just increased sales. So our second period decision was to adjust the prices of all of our China toothpaste. Again, increase our salespeople, increase promotion, add another advertising campaign, and as well as enter the Japan market. Now, for future reference, I would enter the Japanese market on the second round, so the first period decisions, for future reference. And really don't be afraid to spend a lot of money on your advertising in Japan, because it's going to pay off. And we have entered, and for both of these countries so far, we only entered independent and hypermarkets because that just seemed the most centralized market share that we could gain. So period 2 increased our brand equity to about 56, which is going in the right direction, but we still need to increase everything we're doing. So we increased our sales force by a huge number. From having 70 salespeople in China to about 700 salespeople in China. And this is when it really began to pay off. We did the same thing in Japan and realized that it takes a couple years for your brand to build in a country. So after you enter Japan, your brand drops down because people don't know the brand, because your brand equity is that as a whole. So you're going to notice your brand to begin to come around and grow after the year or two after you enter a market. On to our period 4 decisions. We kept adjusting our prices. We kept our ad campaigns. We increased sales force in China by another. We have 900 salespeople in China for our period 4 decision. Our Japan sales force is up to around 235 or 335 people. Excuse me. We increased our budget, and we realized there wasn't as many adaptations on this, but we didn't think too much about it. So for our India's decision, we entered their market with economy small, economy medium, and health medium. We were not spending enough on ads, and we entered their market in the independent and drugstores only, because independents were most of their sales. Drugstores was the next. So our brand equity had adjusted up to 59, but then the year after we entered the Indian market, it came back down to 55 because it would take time to enter those markets. So in period 5, we really started expanding our SKUs based on, we would go to the competitive analysis under the country manager headings. We would look at the competitive prices, and we would go to all, so we could see every single product that was being sold and the unit sales for each one. So the ones that were selling millions and millions of units and were holding a lot of market share, we began to try and adjust our company towards the competitors that were really gaining market share. And so we figured if we could mimic their successful branding and then improve on it, then that would be the trick to really, doing well in the interpretive simulation. So again, with our Japan market, we adjusted the SKUs, we adjusted our campaigns. Our Indian, we added another couple of SKUs. Again, look at what's selling, and then kind of mimic that. We decided that there was a lot of economy, there was a lot of healthy toothpaste selling. We didn't pay attention enough to gel, and that's going to come in later. So earlier in the campaign, know that you should adjust to having see who really likes gel, because they will increase your sales. So like I said, our brand equity adjusted back up 2 points to 57 and during round 6, because the advertising in India began working. And during this round, after doing the same thing we did where we adjust SKUs to what's selling good, the retail sales that are being successful and the unit sales that are gaining a lot from our competitors, begin to mimic those, mimic their pricing, adjust your pricing, add discounts to add market share. So in other words, if they have theirs at a 7% discount, you can match their price with a 15% discount and try and gain market share. But we realize it's harder to gain market share in places like China and Japan because they're such firm markets. So the markets in India, South Korea, we began to see a lot of potential in. So during this round for our period 6 decision, we decided to enter the South Korean market with gel toothpaste, healthy white toothpaste. Only did about 50 salesmen, but this was the first company that we entered independent drugstores and hypermarkets, because there was a pretty even distribution. The hypermarket led it by the most. Drugstores and independent were relatively the same, and we had to spend a lot more money on advertising in South Korea to get the same amount of adaptations. And so that increased our brand equity up to about 60. We're selling a lot more units now. We're increasing our units. But so in this round, we really wanted to make a jump and start building our brand, because we only knew we had a few decisions left, because it ended after a period 10 decision. So we adjusted our SKUs, we adjusted our price, we increased our allowance on most things. Our salespeople in China for period 7 decision was about, over 1,000 salesmen. For Japan was over 230, and about 2 periods ago, I forgot to mention, we began increasing our capacity to match our unit sales and our unit forecast. So we began adding about 100 to 125 capacity with the growing markets that we're doing. In India, we now have about 530 salespeople. South Korea, we added another couple SKUs and kept our salespeople the same because we felt like they were making rounds. And so our brand equity began to drop, and we were wondering why. And so during round 8, we realized that we had completely missed the concept of advertising campaigns, and we weren't updating our campaigns. So we got this notification that our campaigns are now 6 years old and they have no adaptations. And so we've been wasting millions of dollars in the advertising budget by not having new campaigns and continuing the old ones. Do what it takes to redo your campaigns every time, because I think that's why I think our plan worked as far as following the competitive pricing, but we missed that key aspect. So we're gaining a lot of brand equity without advertising. So that means where our brand was gaining equity based solely on how well we fit the customer's needs. And so once we started advertising, and also during period 8, we went ahead and entered the Philippines because it was the next best market to enter over any of the other options. And so now we're in Philippines, South Korea, India, Japan, and China, and we're using at the beginning of each round, we're really adjusting to what is selling. We're trying to pick what's selling in the millions of units. So after this round, our brand immediately increased to 69 because we had adaptations and we had better campaigns. And honestly, that's the biggest thing that kept us back from having a brand equity close to 80. And again, now for the period 9, we had over 1,000 salesmen in China, which again, it's hard to gain market share. Over 400 in Japan, over 600 in India. Had about 70, 80 salesmen in South Korea. They could cover more ground there. And we had about 200 salesmen in the Philippines. And after period 9, we ended up having about a 69 brand equity. But one cool thing is we ended up selling over 1 billion units. And so we think our pricing model and our distribution model and our SKUs that we were selecting was great, because we we sold the most units. We didn't have the highest brand equity, and we didn't have the highest return on marketing. I think that's clearly because we were not actually spending money, but we were just wasting money in 6-year-old campaigns. So again, check out your competitors, because there's going to be very true, honest scale of what's going on. Adjust your pricing, update your branding each time, and you should end up with a better score than we did. But overall, we were happy with where we ended up, about a 69 brand equity index, selling over 1 billion units, and we think we had a pretty strong company. So again, I'm Ben Bell with the International Marketing class for GCSU Spring of 2016, and have a great day.